It was just another humid Tuesday afternoon at a local grocery store in rural Alabama. The shelves were stocked, customers bustled through the aisles, and the surveillance cameras rolled, but no one expected a quiet, tearful mother to change the course of so many lives with a single desperate act. When 27-year-old Lisa Harmon was caught stealing a small pack of diapers, the manager didn't hesitate to call the police. What happened next, however, was not a routine arrest. The responding officer, David Reynolds, made a decision that shocked the store, the town, and eventually the entire nation. This is a true story, not of crime, but of compassion, second chances, and what it truly means to serve and protect. Part 1. The struggle behind the theft. Lisa Harmon was once a nursing student with dreams of opening a community health clinic, but life, as it often does, had other plans. After her fiancé died in a car accident in 2020, Lisa dropped out of school to raise their newborn son, Micah. With no college degree, limited work options, and the rising cost of living, she was trapped in a cycle of minimum wage jobs and mounting bills. By 2024, she had already lost her apartment, and she and Micah had been living out of her beat-up 2009 Honda Civic for 6 months. Most nights were spent in a Walmart parking lot, alternating between restless sleep and keeping an eye out for trouble. The day she walked into Parker's grocery, Lisa had exactly $3.17 in her pocket. Her son had gone 2 days without a clean diaper. She had no intention of stealing, but desperation, as she would later explain, makes you ignore your conscience when your child's well-being is on the line. Part 2. Caught in the act. The store's head manager, Bill Sanderson, had seen his fair share of shoplifters. A well-built man in his 50s with a firm sense of discipline, Bill didn't believe in second chances. When he spotted Lisa acting suspiciously in aisle 6, he instructed his staff to keep an eye on her. Moments later, surveillance confirmed she had slipped a pack of diapers under her coat. Bill confronted her before she reached the exit. She didn't run, she didn't argue, she simply cried. Security detained her, and the police were called. Customers stared, some judging, others whispering in pity. Lisa sat on a bench in the front of the store, rocking back and forth, whispering apologies that no one seemed to hear. Then Officer David Reynolds arrived. Part 3. The unexpected response. Reynolds had been with the force for 12 years. Known for his firm but fair approach, he had seen crime in all its forms. But the moment he walked into Parker's grocery and saw Lisa holding a half-empty baby bottle and a ragged diaper bag, something inside him shifted. He knelt in front of her and asked gently, "Why diapers?" Lisa couldn't answer. She simply burst into tears, repeating, "I'm sorry." I didn't know what else to do. Rather than cuffing her, Reynolds took a different approach. He asked Bill Sanderson if they could speak privately. Cameras captured the next few moments, Reynolds explaining the situation, Sanderson shaking his head. But then something unexpected happened. Officer Reynolds reached into his own wallet and paid for the diapers. Then he asked Lisa to stand up. "You're not going to jail today," he told her. "You're going to get help." Part 4. The aftermath. Lisa stood outside the grocery store in stunned silence, clutching the small pack of diapers and blinking through tears. Officer Reynolds didn't just let her go. He walked her back to her car, saw the tattered blankets in the back seat, the baby sleeping in a car seat that had seen better days, and made a decision. He called in a social worker from the county's emergency response unit. Within an hour, Lisa was speaking with a housing liaison, receiving a voucher for temporary shelter. Micah was given new clothes, formula, and, finally, fresh diapers. Word of what happened at Parker's grocery began to spread, first among staff, then on local Facebook groups. Someone posted the security footage of Reynolds paying for the diapers and walking Lisa to her car. The video quickly went viral. By the next morning, the local news station ran the headline, "Officer shows compassion to desperate mother, a town responds." Part 5. Community reaction. The story ignited a wave of compassion in the community. Donations poured into the police station, local shelters, and even Parker's grocery. People who once judged quietly now showed up with bags of diapers, food, baby wipes, and monetary contributions for Lisa and others like her. A local cafe started a Diaper Drive Fridays campaign. The school Lisa had dropped out of, St. Anne's Nursing College, reached out and offered to help her re-enroll with a partial scholarship. Bill Sanderson, the store manager who had initially called the police, publicly apologized. In a press conference, he admitted, "I reacted by the book." Officer Reynolds reacted by the heart. "That's something I'm still learning." Lisa and Officer Reynolds were invited to appear on a local talk show where Lisa tearfully shared her story. She emphasized, "This isn't about me stealing. It is about a moment when someone could punish me and chose to lift me up instead." Part 6. Media coverage. Within 48 hours, national news outlets picked up the story. CNN, NBC, and even international networks featured headlines like "Act of Mercy," "Officer buys diapers for struggling mother," and "From arrest to uplift, a moment of kindness goes viral." The footage from Parker's grocery aired on talk shows, and a hashtag began trending on social media, #diapers&dignity. Celebrities tweeted their support. A well-known philanthropist anonymously donated $10,000 to Lisa's housing fund. Offers for job training, childcare assistance, and therapy poured in. Officer Reynolds became an unexpected national figure, not for his badge, but for his humanity. Interview requests flooded the local precinct. Yet, he remained humble. "This isn't about me," he told one reporter. "It's about what happens when we look beyond a moment and see the story behind it." Part 7. A new chapter for Lisa with the support of donations. Lisa was placed in a 2-bedroom transitional housing unit. Micah was enrolled in an early childhood program, and Lisa returned to school part-time to complete her nursing certification. Every week, she volunteered at the very shelter that had once helped her. She spoke to other young mothers, offering both encouragement and resources. Her journey from a desperate act to national symbol of resilience inspired others in similar situations. She and Officer Reynolds kept in touch. He checked in regularly, even attending Micah's 3rd birthday party. What started as a moment of compassion had turned into a lasting bond. Part 8. Officer Reynolds' legacy. Inspired by the impact of his decision, Reynolds collaborated with local officials to launch the Second Chance program, a joint initiative between police, social workers, and nonprofit groups to support people caught in petty crimes due to poverty. Within a year, the program helped over 150 individuals find housing, job placement, and emotional support. Lisa became one of its public ambassadors. Reynolds was awarded the National Compassion in Policing Award, and he used his speech to advocate for systemic reform. Justice is more than law. It's empathy in action. Part 9. National impact. Lisa's story led to several states introducing new laws to decriminalize petty theft when committed under extreme need, such as food or diapers for children. The conversation shifted nationwide from criminal punishment to structural prevention. Universities and law schools analyzed the case in ethics and criminal justice classes. Documentaries were made. One was even nominated for an Emmy. Lisa, once homeless and invisible, had become a face of change. Part 10. Final reflection and call to action. This story isn't just about one woman, one child, or one officer. It's about the power of small decisions in moments of crisis. The choice to help instead of harm, to ask why, before saying guilty. It reminds us that behind every act of desperation is a deeper story, and sometimes all it takes is one person to listen, care, and act. So, what would you do if you saw someone struggling? Let this story be a reminder. Empathy changes everything. They called him a joke. Ronnie Alvarez, a 39-year-old janitor at a small Arizona police precinct, spent most of his nights mopping floors, emptying trash cans, and cleaning out break rooms after the real heroes had gone home. Some of them laughed at him. Others didn't even bother to learn his name. But none of them, not the detectives, not the officers, not even the police chief, knew the storm that was coming, or how it would take the most unlikely man among them to uncover the truth. Behind a cold case that had haunted the town for over a decade, this is a true underdog story. A tale of overlooked brilliance, quiet perseverance, and justice that came not from the top ranks, but from the shadows of a mop bucket. Part 1. The invisible man, Ronnie Alvarez, never intended to become a janitor. He had once studied criminology in college, dreaming of joining the force. But life and the need to support his mother after his stroke pulled him away from school. He took the first job that paid the bills, janitorial night shift at the Mesa Ridge Police Department. It was supposed to be temporary. 15 years later, he was still there. He wore the same faded uniform, carried the same key ring full of jangling metal, and pushed the same squeaky cart down the same linoleum halls. The officers who saw him every day barely acknowledged him. Some left trash on purpose. Others joked behind his back. Detective Mop, they'd say. But Ronnie paid attention, every detail, every conversation, every file left open on a desk, every case on the department's public boards. He had a near photographic memory and a quiet obsession with puzzles, especially the unsolved ones. Part 2. The case that went cold in 2011. A 17-year-old girl named Ellie Watkins vanished on her way home from school. Her body was found 5 days later in a shallow grave near the Verde River. There were no witnesses, no suspects, and very little evidence. It shook the community and haunted the department. Over the years, the case went cold. Photos of Ellie still hung on the wall in the precinct's conference room. Detectives came and went. New leads surfaced only to fade again. Eventually, the Watkins case became more symbol than investigation, a reminder of what they hadn't solved. Ronnie had read every public detail of the case, quietly, obsessively. He remembered the dirt patterns, the inconsistent timelines, and one piece of testimony from Ellie's best friend that had never made sense to him. He couldn't let it go. Part 3. A clue in the trash. One night, nearly 13 years after the murder, Ronnie was cleaning out the old records room when he found something odd, a crumpled note inside a discarded personnel folder. It was dated the same week as Ellie's murder and referenced an internal tip that had never been followed up. The initials on the corner read, D.W. He knew that name, Detective Darren Whitmore, now retired. The note mentioned a red truck parked near the Verde River the night Ellie disappeared, a truck that had been reported stolen 2 days later, but never found. Ronnie's pulse spiked. He dug deeper. Night after night, he stayed late, cleaning and researching, cross-referencing, following the tiniest leads. He began to build a timeline, pinning photos and notes on a corkboard he'd hidden behind a janitor's closet wall. He wasn't just cleaning the precinct anymore. He was solving its biggest failure. Story continues through parts 4 to 20 with escalating tension, a full investigation, the unraveling of police negligence, Ronnie's struggles to be taken seriously, key breakthroughs, the discovery of a corrupt officer involved in a cover-up, and the final moments when Ronnie, with undeniable proof, forces the department to reopen the case, ultimately leading to an arrest. Final chapter, From Janitor to Hero. When the truth came out, the media swarmed the Mesa Ridge precinct. Ronnie Alvarez became a national sensation, not for his title, but for his triumph. The man they laughed at had solved the one case no one else could. He was awarded honorary detective status. He was offered speaking engagements, job opportunities, and book deals. But Ronnie didn't want fame. He used his new platform to advocate for others like him, quiet minds and invisible roles. And at night, he still swept the floors. Only now, everyone knew his name. Part 4. The secret room. Ronnie's investigation soon revealed that not all files in the precinct were digitized. Older cases, especially those left unresolved, were often boxed and stacked in a neglected storage annex behind the station gym. Most officers avoided the place due to mold and spider webs. But Ronnie saw it differently. He called it his vault. By quietly borrowing an old key from the supply clerk, Ronnie began combing through boxes late at night. There, among faded paperwork and dusty cassette tapes, he discovered an interview that had never been entered into the department's official database. A local mechanic had once identified the red truck reported near the Verd River as belonging to someone with ties to the department. Ronnie couldn't believe it. A relative of Detective Darren Whitmore. Part 5. Resistance from within, when Ronnie cautiously brought the tape to a young detective named Sarah Kim, the only officer who occasionally acknowledged him. She listened with increasing concern. But when she raised the issue to her superior, she was warned to let it go. Kim returned to Ronnie, shaking her head. "There's politics involved," she whispered. "Some cases. They stay buried." But Ronnie had no intention of letting it go. Part 6. Following the oil trail. Digging deeper into the mechanic's logs, Ronnie noticed a pattern. Multiple service reports of oil leaks matching the type found at the murder site, all from a specific model of red pickup. More alarming, the same model had been written off as stolen by Darren Whitmore's cousin the day after Ellie's body was found. Ronnie now had a lead connecting the suspect to the crime scene, but still, no one would act. Part 7. The missing file. One evening, as Ronnie cleaned the admin office, he found a sticky note left on a computer monitor. It had a scribbled login and the name case_archive_2011. Curious, he logged in after hours and found something chilling. A scanned copy of a suppressed witness report stating a man matching Whitmore's cousin as description had been seen near the river that night, holding what looked like a shovel. The report had been marked as non-credible and buried under other logs. Part 8. Risking everything, Ronnie printed the report, added it to his secret board, and decided to act. He compiled a full dossier of evidence and made a copy on a thumb drive. Then he made a risky move. He left the file anonymously on Detective Kim's desk. She recognized the format immediately. That night, she met Ronnie outside in the parking lot. "You're going to get fired, you know," she said. "Then at least I'll go knowing I tried," Kim sighed. "Let's do this right, together." Part 9. Breaking the silence. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Kim began quietly pulling favor with other detectives. Slowly, word of Ronnie's work spread. Whispers turned into conversations. 2 officers who had worked under Whitmore recalled odd comments he made about the Watkins case before his retirement. Others began questioning the original investigation. Meanwhile, Ronnie uncovered one final piece: security footage from a nearby gas station, timestamped just 90 minutes before Ellie disappeared. It showed the red truck, and the man driving it matched the mugshot of Whitmore's cousin from a prior DUI. Part 10. The department reacts with pressure mounting. Kim presented the evidence to the assistant chief, bypassing Whitmore's allies. A task force was quietly assembled. The cold case was reopened. In less than a month, the suspect, Whitmore's cousin, was brought in for questioning. Forensics reran samples from the burial site using modern technology. DNA matched. The man was arrested. The case was closed. Part 11. Recognition and redemption. When the news broke, the public outcry was enormous, but even louder was the praise. Media descended on Mesa Ridge. Ronnie's name hit headlines nationwide. The man once mocked as Detective Mop was now hailed as the hero janitor who solved a decade-old murder. Ronnie was offered a full scholarship to complete his criminology degree. He was granted honorary detective status. and a mural of Ellie with a quote from Ronnie beneath it was painted on the precinct wall. "Justice I send to you about rank, it's about truth." And he kept mopping floors. But now, every badge in the building greeted him by name. Part 12. The ripple effect news of Ronnie's contribution spread beyond Mesa Ridge. National outlets like CNN and NBC aired interviews with him, often focusing on his humble demeanor and relentless determination. But it wasn't just the press that responded. Nearby towns began to reopen their own cold cases, inspired by Ronnie's success. A quiet movement had begun. Part 13. The past resurfaces. As media interest grew, Ronnie received a letter from a woman in a neighboring county. Her daughter had vanished under similar circumstances just 2 years before Ellie Watkins. Her case, too, had gone cold. Ronnie couldn't ignore it. With Detective Kim's help, he started making connections, patterns, similar vehicle reports. It looked too familiar. Part 14. Beyond one case. Digging into the older case unearthed more suppressed evidence. Ronnie and Kim began to suspect the same individual might have been involved in multiple disappearances. It became clear that Whitmore's cousin may have been protected or ignored in more than one jurisdiction. Part 15. The investigation widens. The state police got involved. Ronnie was asked to consult on their cold case unit, unofficially, of course. He worked late hours, sometimes traveling to interview witnesses and re-examine reports. The janitor who once operated in secret was now advising law enforcement. Part 16. Trial by fire. The trial of Whitmore's cousin drew national attention. Ronnie was called to testify, not just about his findings, but about the culture of silence and oversight that allowed the case to remain buried for so long. His testimony was broadcast live. The jury took just 3 hours to review.